Good evening. This is Hunter, aka Cifaretto. I play Protection Paladin on the Ascension Bronzebeard private server. I thought I would put together a little guide for Protection Paladin at level 60. We'll be going over my current Mystic enchant setup. We'll be going over what I think the current best in slot pre-raid items are and gear, along with the attached enchants, and also some alternatives if you cannot get all of the gear that I mentioned in this video. So without further ado, let's begin. We'll start off just looking at my Mystic enchant setup for Protection Paladin. Alright, so for my legendary enchant that I intend to use for raids, I am intending to use Protection Mastery while Righteous Fury is active. Increases all threat generated by 12%, and while Righteous Fury is active, which it always should be if you're main tanking or tanking, it reduces damage, any type of damage, by 3%. This is what I'm intending to do for raids and world bosses. I've had success tanking Cetus and Azurgias earlier this week with this setup. But if you're just running like normal dungeons or even the heroics, you can easily get away with running one with the light just to increase your damage and get threat that way. I don't think the mobs are hitting that hard that you need the extra armor. But I think when ZG drops, probably for the heroic version, I intend on using that Protection Mastery. I know a lot of people have had success with Crimson Defense as their legendary enchant. I am probably not the smartest player in the world, so I don't know. I didn't notice great threat generation with it. You know, I need to do some more tests with that. I've also messed around with using Light of the Guardian. Again, if you're having difficulty maintaining threat, this is kind of like your AoE taunt with a light heal in and a damage reduction. So yeah, that's what I would use for my legendaries. For my 3 epics, I use Blessed Hammer, Hammer of the Righteousness, increase 10%, increase damage, and increases your holy damage done on enemies by 3% for 15 seconds. Just using aggressive play to generate more threat. Baleful Hammer, I always use Holy Shield whenever it's off cooldown, so this just increases your armor and increases the amount of charges for it. Consecrated Zeal. This is mana dependent, but I always try and have Consecration up to generate threat, AoE damage, and large pulls, and on boss fights. With the Consecrated Zeal, you get a damage reduction by 1%, which can stack up to 3 times as long as Consecration is active. For my artifact, I use Light's Hammer. It reduces movement speed of enemies in an AoE circle. Does a ton of damage. I think it's great. I haven't really messed around with anything else just because Light's Hammer is so good. If anyone else has other alternatives, please don't hesitate to mention them in the comments. As far as my rare enchants go, I have the Glyph of Divine Plea. So while Divine Plea is active, which I always have, use off cooldown, you take, again, 3% reduced damage, better mana generation. Conviction. I might switch this out with something else, but I've been liking it so far for getting crits and increasing my damage a little bit to hold threat that way. Just as a damage increase with your critical strike rate. Crusade just increases all damage against humanoids, demons, and undead elementals by additional 3%. I just added Deflection because my parry rate was pretty low on my current gear set. And this is a crossover talent that you get from the Ret tree. So I use Deflection to increase my parry chance, keep all my combat table options open. Seal of Command, I think this is a must-have. You just deal so much damage with the seal active. It's great for maintaining threat and AoE pulls. I'm a big supporter of Seal of Command. And again, for those AoE pulls, Glyph of Hammer of Righteousness, you hit an additional target. Some alternatives for those rare enchants I've seen. Blessed Hands, reducing the mana costs of your Hand of Protection, Hand of Salvation, right here. Increases their effectiveness as well. Let's see what else I've used. Pursuit of Justice reduces the duration of any disarm, any movement or mounted. And increases your mounted movement speed by 15%. If you're, running through Strat Live normal, trying to get orbs for farming, that's a great talent to have. Alright. That's about enough of the Mystic Enchants. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. Let's go over the current gear set for Protection Paladin at level 60. So this is obviously subject to change. It's a tentative kind of list that I've compiled. And I've also listed some alternatives, but without further ado, I have the Centurion Barboot, which you can get from spending Marks of Triumph right here. I'm not sure where it is for Horde, but for Alliance, you go to Marcus here, and you can buy the Centurion Barboot helm for 85 Marks of Triumph, which you get by farming heroic dungeons. For my enchant on this plate helm, I have used the Librum of Constitution, or the Lesser Arcanum of Constitution, to give me plus 100 health. I will be putting a link for that enchant quest in the description. If you don't have enough Mark of Triumph points to, spend on the Centurion Barboot, I would say a good alternative is the Grand Crusader's helm. Also with the Lesser Arcanum of Constitution to give you a plus 100 health benefit. It just increases your block, increases your stamina and strength. Both helms are great. If you're trying to save some, go with the Grand Crusader. If you want the absolute best in slot, probably would say it's the Centurion Barboot. For the neck piece, I use the insignia of the Shifting Sands. Not a cheap piece to get. You have to get it off the Cetus World Boss or spend an inordinate amount of gold at the auction house. So obviously not everyone will have this piece, but it gets your hit rating up by 10, gives you 17 strength. Critical strike is but it's really good neck piece. If you can't get that piece, because there's a lot of competition for it, the next best, I would argue, is the Evil Eye Pendant. Instead of giving the 17 strength, it gives you the 17 stamina and increases your expertise rating by 3, increases your spell power by 12, and increases your defense rating by 14. If you can't get that in a drop, I would also suggest the Eidolon Talisman. It gives you some more block value on your shield. I'm going to put that back right here. Shoulders. Bulky Iron Spalders, I would say, is best in slot. 11 stamina, 517 armor, increases your block rating and your block value of your shield. The enchant I got, and you need Exalted with Argent Dawn, is +5 all resistances. I think it's called the Chromatic Mantle of Argent Dawn to give you the +5 all resistances. If you aren't Exalted, I think you can do like Fire, Ice, or Fire Frost, and Shadow and Nature resist +5. Before I was Exalted, I used +5 Shadow resist. I'd say the best in slot cloak is the Readout Cloak. Just increases your defense rating, shield block rating, block value, kind of similar to these shoulders. Again, I do enchanting, so I have all resistances on cloak. +5 is my enchant. I know there's spell penetration, greater defense are alternative enchants. I've only used the +5 all resistances, and thus far it's been working great. The chest piece I would say is best in slot is the Spiderfang Carapace. I have +4 all stats enchant on it. If you can't get that, do the +3 all stats. Huge increase to your hit rating, which needs to be 80 ideally, or 70 if you have a Draenei in your party. It increases your expertise by 9. Ideally, you want that to be 26. No less than, I'd say, 21 right now. Alternatively, you can use the Plate of the Shaman King, which I don't have in my inventory right now, unfortunately, but that would be an alternative chest piece. So I'm going to talk about the Deathbone set here. So if you can read on this screen here, if you have 3 of these Deathbone pieces, you can hit an enemy target for the first time, and that will trigger a massive spike in threat and reduce the mob's damage by 15% for 4 seconds. Initially, I was a big supporter of using the 3-piece, but I have found that I hold threat just fine with this set without. I will report back if that does not hold up in ZG or the next raid tier or next world boss or whatever. Obviously, if you are having threat issues, I would try and use the Deathbone set, and we'll talk about some more alternatives in a moment. The wrists, I think, are pretty close to best in slot. I've looked at the Bravery Bracers, Vambraces of the Sadist, a couple other wrist pieces, and I just think that these are the best. I currently have the enchant +7 intellect, which I believe is greater or superior intellect enchant attached to these. Just gives me a little more mana. Sorry about that, guys. Just classic Bronzebeard. DC, which is the toughest raid boss, as we all know. So yeah, I was just talking about the Deathbone wrist guards. Right now I like having the extra intellect. Sometimes I'm not the most mana efficient player, so if that changes, I might use superior strength. For the gloves, I would say the best in slot would be the Bone Clenched Gauntlets. Just overall increases all the stats you need: strength, stam, defense rating, your shield block, expertise, which again, I would like to say you need to be at least at 21. For raids, increases your spell power. I don't think there really is much of an alternative to these. Okay, here's where there are lots of alternatives. So right now, with running heroic dungeons, I use the Crusader's Girdle because it gets my hit rating above 80. Gives me 20 strength, 13 stamina. Again, critical strikes, not so important. Doesn't hurt to have. But if you find that you might need more stamina or defense, you can switch this out with 2 other pieces, which I'll get to in just a second. You have to be exalted with Argent Dawn and go to the Quartermaster in Eastern Plaguelands at Light's Hope Chapel to get this belt. Same as another item on this list. So be sure to be farming Sholo, Strat, doing all the quests in the Plaguelands, and turning in your stones, because the items that you get from the Argent Dawn are really good for Paladin. Ret as well. This is also best in slot for Ret. And the first alternative, again, not a cheap one and kind of a rare drop, is the Unmelting Ice Girdle. This draws some Azurgus, the world boss. This gives you more stamina than strength with the Crusader's Girdle. Now, if you notice, my hit rating is below the cap of 80 now with this. Luckily, I have a Draenei in my raid that will get my hit rating above this. So if you have a Draenei in your party or your raid group, you only need to get 70 out of 80, I believe. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that is what one of their talents is. Now, this is not an easy drop, and it's expensive at the auction house. It's going kind of between like 300 and 500 gold. Not as expensive as the insignia. But yeah, if you can't get that piece, no worries. I would use the I have it here somewhere, I think. Here, let me just do this. Get my bank out. Sorry. Here we go. I'm an idiot. Okay. The Deathbone Girdle. So, if you don't have the Crusader Belt or the Unmelting Ice Girdle, then there might be some advantages to using that 3-piece. You get some more intellect, some more strength, some stamina, some spell power increase. And if you're going to use this belt, you might as well, for the legs, disregard what I have currently. I'd say the best 3 pieces to use for your stats would be the Deathbone Wrists, Girdle, and Leggings with plus 100 health. Again, that's using the Arcanum of Constitution to get the plus 100 health for that. Again, this is just, increasing your hit rating, increasing your spell power. It's just great. And here, the set is activated now. So this is hitting an enemy for the first time will trigger massive spike in threat and reduce their damage done by 15 for 4 seconds. I don't think these are the best in slot legs right now. I'm going to put these back on. Yes, this doesn't give you as much stamina as the Deathbone Leggards, but I have the plus 100 health Lesser Arcanum on to kind of make up for that. It still gives you 14 stam, way more strength, way more intellect, increases your expertise by 5. I think this is better. Again, that critical strike, kind of disregard. It's okay to have, whatever. doesn't matter as much, but I think everything else is good. If you're holding threat without the 3-piece bonus, I'd say go with the shitness plate leggards. Again, there's some debate on this, whether or not these are the Deathbone legs are. There's also like the Vigilance leggings, which are more defensive and better for mitigation. You can get them from Marcus here in Stormwind. And yeah, that's what I would do for the leggings. The Stompers of the Argent Dawn, best in slot boots. I have +7 stamina as my enchant on that. Increases your shield block rating and block value. Yeah, just great piece. Again, you need Exalted with Argent Dawn. Let me put my belt back on. If you can't get these, if you don't have Exalted yet, I would say maybe Deathbone boots, maybe the, to make the 3-piece for you, or the Boots of Valor right here to increase your expertise rating and your hit rating. So these are also really good. Not as good as these, though. I don't think. For your rings, the Nagel ring, you can get that from, heroic dungeons or turning in Marks of Triumph. For these, gives you 119 armor, gives you stamina, increases your expertise rating. The arcane damage bonus is fine, but, it's good armor ring for health and armor. This is not a cheap ring, so we will go over alternatives, but I think it is best in slot. You can get this at the ring vendor in Stormwind in the Mage Quarter for 600 gold. Not cheap, like I said, but 50 armor plus 15 stamina, increases your hit rating and expertise rating, your defense rating. I think this is a pretty damn good ring. For the alternate, you can use the Blood Clot Band. Also gives you a hit rating. Gives you some good stamina. Let me just compare that, actually. Okay, yeah, not quite as much stamina, but 13's to your stamina, increases your spell power. But I think the Blood Clot Band is beaten by the Protector's Ring. For trinkets, these are both 80 heroic or Mark of Triumph tokens that you have to give to Marcus. I don't think you can get them any other way, to my knowledge. Massive increase to your hit rating. Your damaging spells have a chance to increase your spell damage by 80 for 10 seconds. Apparently, this is only working with Holy Wrath right now. I will update you all when that changes. But that 24 hit rating is just so good. I think this is by far the best trinket because of its nice little use. Gives you 25 stamina off the rip, increases your hit rating by 12. Not nearly as much as the Spellbound rune, but 12 hit rating is good. The use, I have this bound to my Shift 1 key. It increases your armor by 1350 for 10 seconds and also deals 26 damage to attackers. So for huge pulls and Sholomance, if you're like pulling Vectis and the whole room, I pretty much activate this immediately. Or dealing with the first boss in Undead Strat, it's nice to activate. I think it's great. Alternatively, if you can't spend the Mark of Triumphs to get these little trinkets, I really like this World Forged trinket. You can get it in the Burning Steps. I will actually pull it up in the map here. Right around here at Dreadball Rock. You can get it like on top of the mountain. And it is really like a good defensive and offensive trinket. It increases defense rating by 21. Anytime you take melee damage, it can make you breathe nauseous fire damage to all enemies around you. So it's this huge AoE burst of fire damage. I think it's a really really neat trinket. Okay, now onto the good stuff. For weapons, I use Iron Foe with the Crusader enchant, so I get my health back when I use a melee attack. Increases your expertise by 4. You can proc extra attacks on your swings. It gives you 8 stamina. Probably best in slot right now. Alternatively, there's a World Forged item, the Ancient Dark Iron Mace, that I think pairs really well with that Fire Gut trinket. It increases your defense and dodge rating, and again, it surrounds you with a shield of fire, inflicting 27 fire damage, and increases your armor, a chance on hit. So, using these together, the Ancient Dark Iron Mace and the Fire Gut Emblem, will really increase your fire damage. For shields, I think a lot of people in the community have agreed that Dreadguard's Protector is best in slot. Really good shield block rating of 22. Some nature, arcane resist, strength, stam. I use the lesser block enchant, which gives me a 10 shield block rating on it. Alternatives could be, obviously the Skull Flame shield, the heroic version. Gives you a lot of armor. Maybe too much, but, always a good shield. This Aegis of Defense, I don't personally love it, but I've heard that it is very good for mitigating damage. I did try it out and added the shield block rating. The other two would be the Crest of Retribution and the Rombard Protector. Lastly, I don't think there's a good alternative. Maybe the Petrified Codex, but the Archived Record of Inquisition gives you +7 strength and an expertise rating increase by 7. So a quick kind of overview of my stats. PvE power. You need this. You need this to be 495. Somehow my item level is 63.67 with my current gear. These are my attributes, my damage, my hit rating, my expertise, which are both overcapped, so I'll adjust these at some point. I guess my crit chance is pretty high because of all those crit pieces. Armor's at 8,638. Don't worry so much about this defense stat. We have traits to make up for that. Would like for this to be higher. If I put this on, it should go to like 20%. Or maybe the Evil Eye Pendant as well. Yeah. Well, I'm going to get off, guys. I hope you enjoyed. Lastly, here's just a picture of my talent tree. It's just protection across the board. Divine Strength, Anticipation, Toughness, Improved Righteous Fury, Divine Sacrifice, Divine Guardian, Improved Devotion Aura, Reckoning, Blessing of Sanctuary, and all the rest. Hope you all have a great rest of your day, and thanks for watching. If you have any questions, do not hesitate to ask.